That is definitely, we both see that, right?
Yeah.
That's recording. That's recording, okay? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. My name is Ben.
And my name is Peter.
This is a video game podcast where we talk about things.
What, video?
No.
It's a things podcast.
It's a things podcast.
Where we talk about things.
Things.
Specifically of the video game variety.
Exactly. Before we go any further, Peter, this podcast, this episode, I should say, is sponsored by Kratos's beard oil.
It is.
For when you really need to just get mad.
At your son.
It's at your son. It's full of micro angers. It's a new testostericides, just chock full of testostericides, full of this newly discovered micro anger that really gets the job done, the job of war. Thank you to Kratos Beard Oil for being this week's real sponsor.
I think they're going to be really pleased with that plug.
That was a good ad read, wasn't it?
There, yeah.
I read that. That's how it was written down on my paper here. So anyway, what we're going to be doing this week, Peter, is we'll be answering some questions from people at home, talking about what we playin, which is a silly segment that I can't believe exists because it's so groundbreaking. There'll be some weird news and a big discussion at the end of the show. Let's kick it off with a question, though, Peter.
This is a question from Ryan Griffin. With the release of Raising Kratos and the beard oil company product.
Yeah.
If you could pick a game or developer studio to have a documentary made about them or a specific game, what would you pick and why?
This was something I wanted to talk about, Peter, because I just started watching this documentary last night. It's a 2-hour-long documentary.
Is it the Telltale one?
No.
Oh.
No, it was produced by PlayStation called Raising Kratos. Is it the Telltale one?
Okay.
God, this guy.
Well, there's
cracks
the Telltale
me up.
one
There
too,
is the
isn't
Telltale
there?
one.
That's
The Telltale one too. That one's done by NoClip. Also
just the
worth
way
watching.
that you led with that sentence sounded like something that we hadn't yet talked about. The question says Raising Kratos, and you said, "Yeah, I was watching this documentary. This documentary.
Yeah,
last
this
night."
documentary.
Oh, you mean this one?
This one.
On the page. I thought
Raising
you meant,
Kratos, the one we're being asked about.
I was watching a documentary last night, and you were about to reveal what it was.
No, I meant this as in
actual
this
one.
specific documentary.
This.
I was Peter. I was watching Raising Kratos last night.
Oh, okay.
I've seen about half an hour of it. It's 2 hours long. It's produced by PlayStation, and they had the foresight to basically document the development from God of War all the way from 2013 through to now. And it is absolutely fascinating, not least because this is, especially video game companies, I feel like they do not really like to publicize failures in their past. So
true.
Even EA, in response to Star Wars Battlefront, said, "We've heard you loud and clear." You know, lots of them will say, "We've heard you loud and clear." They won't say, "We effed up."
We know that last time we did all these things wrong. You know, they don't tend to.
But they actively put in, right at the start, the sort of little montage leading into the beginning of the documentary. They put in how just clips from reviews about how disappointed people were with God of War Ascension.
Right.
And it said, it's the dipping of a once beloved franchise and stuff like that. And I just thought that's so bizarre. I mean, it's appropriate for the story, you know, the rise of Kratos to back up to mainstream popularity again. But like, it's so weird to see PlayStation specifically actually embracing sort of failures in their past.
I guess because God of War has just done so well, they are in a position to do that. If God of War had come out, I mean the most recent one obviously, if it had come out and just been okay, then maybe you wouldn't also want to draw attention to the fact that, that okay game that we just released, that was off the back of that bad game.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
I don't think Ascension was dire, but
no,
it just wasn't,
absolutely
not. Compared to the other God of War games, it was a bit of a fall from grace.
No, I just thought that was really interesting. And you're right, obviously, the whole reason that we're even seeing this is because it's incredible. But obviously, it wasn't an easy development cycle.
No.
And it's all been chronicled here. And the fact that they thought, we should get a documentary crew for this, makes it really interesting. And, it catalogues 4 or 5 years of these people's lives putting this game together, and it's really, really interesting and definitely worth watching.
It's just as well the game did so well, because otherwise, imagine spending all that money on just the documentary on the side, just all the filming and hiring the crews and then editing it together and stuff, and then the game just didn't sell very well, and no one was interested in the making of a game that didn't, perform particularly well on the shelves. You know?
I mean, it would have been a considerable investment anyway, but I would imagine that if the game got canned at some point, the documentary would have ended.
Yeah,
and it's still been an additional, year and a bit since the game came out.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, an incredible game and an amazing documentary. So everyone should go and watch that if you're just interested in game development. It's really fascinating. But Ryan asks, what documentary would you like to be made about a certain studio or a certain game or something like that?
Yeah, I think other than, obviously, I think any one of us would say that they'd love to see a super detailed documentary about their favorite X, game or movie or book even, the process of writing a book. But, other than just listing off my favorite games, which I've done multiple times in various videos, I think I'd quite like to see how Rockstar work with their with GTA 5 and RDR2 particularly, just what we heard about how the development process of Red Dead was going down, particularly in those last few months before it was ready to go gold. That sounds, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that studio. It might not be a particularly enjoyable experience to watch that and just see how some people were probably really overworked and a bit concerned about their health and stuff like that, but it would be certainly interesting. And equally, you mentioned EA. I would love to know the actual conversations that go on behind closed doors in terms of canning Ragtag, but then being happy to bring out the Jedi Fallen Order.
Right.
So certainly from that perspective, I'd love to see not necessarily the development of EA games, but like the boardroom meetings that take place.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not quite a full documentary that I would necessarily watch. But yeah, certainly the Rockstar endeavors of the past few years. Those games are just so enormous. I'd be fascinated to even know how you keep a team all pulling in the right direction with that much stuff going on. Like the line of command must alone, like the diagrams of
who's responsible for
what, just must be bizarre to look at. But
no,
what about you?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's what makes this question so fun is because a documentary that actively shows Rockstar's poor working conditions would probably never be made.
No, of course.
But it's something you'd like to see. And by the same token, I'd like to see a documentary for a game that turned out terribly, like Aliens Colonial Marines. I would love to see a documentary about that.
That's a good point.
But, on and again, wish fulfillment, on a similar scale to this Raising Kratos documentary, where it isn't just like, even though it's very good, the no-clip documentary that's just come out about Telltale, they speak to 4 former employees about their experiences there and then just fill the rest of it with sort of B-roll and footage of the games and stuff like that. And it's fantastic and really paints a picture of what it was like to work there and what it was like and what everyone went through when they just suddenly closed. All of a sudden, like 250, 300 people just lost their jobs on the same day. It just went. But it's not quite the same as being able to document the whole process like it would be if it was a film, for example. If it was like a fake documentary, if it was a film dramatizing real life events, that's the kind of thing you'd like to see, isn't it? Because no one has the foresight to know they're suddenly going to close in a year's time. Let's document this year.
It's like occasionally on Netflix you'll see there's like 2 or 3 documentaries where just by sheer luck there happened to be film crews following what they thought was going to be like a fairly mundane. I watched it. It wasn't Netflix actually. It was like a terrestrial TV, UK TV channel. It was like Channel 4 or something. Did this thing where a film crew had been following just what was going to be, they thought was going to be a fairly simple murder, if there can be such a thing.
Right. Just a standard killing.
Just a regular old, I think they just thought it was going to be like, there's a lot of domestic abuse in murder, and they thought it was just going to be something like that, some altercation. And it turned out to be this bizarre case that they were like, we're so lucky we had a film crew following it from literally the moment it was phoned in to filming every witness and everything. So, yeah, if you could have a documentary crew who happened to be around.
If you had the foresight.
Yeah, if you knew months ahead, or if you got lucky, then there's all sorts of things that would be pretty interesting to see from the inside.
So I'd like that. I'd like to see something like Aliens Colonial Marines from the beginning of the project to the end, and actual, no Randy Pitchford BS, like actual people, boots on the ground in the studio, like they're talking about farming out to another studio. we've been caught farming it out to another studio. What Randy's just lied about us farming it out to another studio. We've been sued for lying about farming it out to another studio. We've gotten out of the lawsuit for lying. Sega's taken the fall for some reason. Yeah, that would be fascinating. Equally, a cancelled game, something that just got cancelled, like Ragtag. Or, PT. That Kojima was working on. Silent Hills. Silent Hills, and that's what it's called. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Time Splitters, or a game like Half-Life 3. Just sort of an in-depth documentary about what the hell is happening at some of these really secretive companies.
Yeah, like what has been decided, what hasn't been decided, what rumors are true. Yeah. Whether there've been any meetings other than like maybe they had a meeting like 6 years ago and said, right, we're not doing it, just so everyone knows, everyone in an executive position in this company knows, we're not doing it, it's never happening. And then since then they've never done anything. Or do they actually have meetings like every 6 months? Like,
shall we? Is it time?
We doing it? Yeah.
I think it's pretty much common knowledge now that Valve just doesn't make games anymore.
Yeah.
But it would still be really interesting to know the truth behind what happened between them making games and then not making games, which sort of, petered out.
Especially since
years ago.
Pretty much of like they do so well at it, Portal 1 and 2 were fantastic.
They've lost so many key stuff though,
Half-Life's
just because they're not making these games. But that's a documentary I'd like to see. Please go and watch the Raising Kratos and the Telltale documentaries. They're on YouTube. One's on PlayStation. One's on a brilliant website called YouTube channel called No Clip. So if you're interested, go and watch those. Thank you, Ryan. Proud patron, we should mention. All of these questions are coming from patrons. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump.
Thank you, Raza. Ben.
Yeah?
It's time to discuss the video games with which we sit down on a sofa in front of a television and engage in the act of playing on an evening or weekend.
Shut up. It's time for What We Playin, Peter.
It is.
It's a thing where we talk about what we playin.
What are we playing?
Peter, how's Spider-Man?
Spider-Man is really good.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I've actually not got much further in the story since last podcast because I'm just spending so much time doing fun
collecting
things.
Backpacks.
Well, I collected...
Taking photos of Doctor Strange's house and the Wakanda embassy.
Well, exactly. I did like all those sorts of things. And then I knew there were like more things to unlock because you can see on the map of the overworld that there's a bunch of things like grayed out that like, you don't have these icons yet because you've not unlocked it. And I did like 2 more story missions. And then it's like, by the way, Pete, there's like all these research stations on the tops of buildings that Harry Osborn has left. So do you want to go and do those now?
Yeah.
You go and do those, and there's loads of those to do.
Here's a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is it nice playing a game where you are named, you have the same name? I was saying you're named after the main character.
Hey, Pete.
You have the same name as the main character.
Yeah, it's pretty, I certainly get my... Maybe, do you think like there's if you're able to measure it, do you think scientifically my ears perk up several nanoseconds faster than yours do?
Maybe.
When he says, hey, Pete. I'm like, yeah?
All I can do is wear the Scarlet Spider costume because that was the Ben Reilly Spider-Man.
Right, okay.
And that's the closest I can come to being Spider-Man. I'll never be Peter.
No, sadly not. Well, you could be. You could change your name by default.
That would be confusing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be really
We're Peter and Peter.
Yeah.
The 2 Peters. Just a couple of Wilsons.
I've been wearing the Sam Raimi costume since almost the beginning.
As soon as that was patched in.
Yeah.
I went back to that game and
such a good suit.
Got it in. Yeah, it's good.
I'll tell you what I am enjoying as well. It's sort of I think last time I talked about this game, I did bring up the PS2 games, the Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 Sam Raimi adaptations.
Yeah.
On PS2. Something that I'm enjoying about the Insomniac Spider-Man game that reminds me of those games is just sort of random kind of boss fights with other Spider-Man comic book villains that, there's not just like some final boss who you maybe encounter several times throughout the game and have sort of, a few scuffles with, but ultimately you're not going to take him down till the end. It's like, no, I've already fought Shocker twice, and spoilers, and,
it's been a year.
It's been a year. And I doubt that, I can see that like he's linked to the narrative. He's not just been thrown in for fun, but I can tell that like he's he's really just a sub character that they've thrown in.
That's what the Arkham games did so well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
Yeah,
because you're right. If it was just a movie adaptation, although the PS2 games did a better job, obviously. Yeah. But if it was just a movie adaptation, you'd probably be following one, maybe two villains through the main story, and just have sort of, I don't know, tiered crime families to take down, and you have that as well.
Yeah.
But you also have basically the entire Sinister Six.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Sinister Six, barring a few, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly what the boss scene was in the Spider-Man 2 game on PS2, but certainly the Spider-Man 1, you fought a bunch of characters that weren't in the movie. You fought Vulture, you fought Shocker a couple of times. Scorpion was in there as well. And that's what I enjoyed about that game so much, and it's nice to be doing that again, because I'm pretty sure the Amazing Spider-Man games were a bit more tied towards the movies. They didn't have a bunch of extras thrown in, a bunch of schleem. So that's what I'm enjoying. I'm just still swinging around the city, having a lot of fun, doing all the side bits.
Nice.
Not develop the story that much further, and I'm enjoying bumping into just comic book characters that you don't necessarily expect are going to be in there.
I remember watching the trailer for Marvel's Spider-Man before it came out a couple of years ago. I can't remember which conference it was at. It might have been PlayStation Experience or E3, but it was the one where they suddenly just revealed that, oh, by the way, it's not just this Mr. Negative guy. Here's 5 brightly coloured supervillains. And I was like, oh my, this is amazing.
They all like beat him up in the same trailer. Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, this game instantly got elevated from I'm definitely playing this to I need it now.
Yeah.
I need it now. Yeah,
that's what I thought, because I was like, who's this Negative man? He just looks like an inverted colour person.
And he's a really good villain as well. Like in the game, he plays a really important role.
But I was like, I don't really have any knowledge or attachment to this villain as a fun, cool comic book villain. And then it's like, oh, hang on, here's all these others.
Here's all the friends.
Yeah.
The supervillain friends.
So I'm still really enjoying it. And I might be talking about it for the next couple of podcasts. I might just try and scatter in a few other games in my next month or so. So I'm not just talking about Spider-Man. But yeah, it's great. What about you, Ben? What are you playing?
Well, I just came off a weekend of playing a great deal of Dark Souls 2, which is my least favorite Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, which was the re-release for PS4 with all the DLCs and a shiny, sometimes very off-putting 60 frames per second.
Okay.
It's a bit weird sometimes. So yeah, I like Dark Souls 2 fine. I enjoy it. Compare it to other games in general, and I'd say it's an excellent game. Compare it to other Dark Souls games, and I would say it's not that great.
Right.
But I want to get the Platinum Trophy, and so did my friend. And the Platinum Trophy for these games usually involves collecting all of the pyromancies for one, all of the sorceries for another, in this game, all of the hexes and all of the miracles. And usually those require either multiple playthroughs or definitely following a guide to get them all in one go, because you get them from certain NPCs or side quest lines that, because it's Dark Souls, can just come and go because you looked at a person wrong, and then that's it. You've screwed up your save file, basically. And there were a couple of others as well for completing NPC quest lines that usually involve, for these last two anyway, they involved exhausting all their dialogue at certain locations throughout the game. And when you exhaust their dialogue, they'll then appear in the next place.
Okay. And
then once you've done that, you can then summon them in for certain boss fights to help you out as an AI partner. And you have to summon them in for 3 boss fights. And we're like, okay, fine. So we're going to have to do a new playthrough with basically a spreadsheet to make sure we get all the stuff that we need to get. And then on top of that, we've got to remember that we've got to talk to this person in this place and this person in this place and make sure we do all that in one go.
Right.
But fortunately, because Dark Souls 2 is Dark Souls 2, we were able to load our completed save files, and you can start New Game Plus and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But, at the end of the game, basically. And we found both of them in basically locations we'd neglected to exhaust their dialogue.
Okay.
So we were able to go and speak to them at all these locations that we needed to. And then you can use an item in Dark Souls 2 called a bonfire ascetic. And what it does is you burn it at the bonfire, and in that area, it brings all the enemies back to life, including the boss, and basically elevates that zone to New Game Plus.
Okay.
And if you then go defeat the boss and come back, burn it again, it elevates it to New Game plus plus.
Right.
So basically, we were able to sort of cheese these boss fights that we were already finished, and summoning these guys in by putting it up to New Game plus by burning this thing, summoning them in, and then doing that twice more. And then we were able to get the trophy for finishing their quest line without having to start a new game and worry about all that stuff. So basically, it was a weekend of following a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Now we're halfway through New Game Plus. We have about maybe 10 things left to collect.
Okay.
But it essentially involves us playing through another time and a half of this game.
Right.
So it's going to take a little while, but that's basically what my mission is at the moment, is to get the platinum in Dark Souls 2. It's within reach now.
Yeah.
Because I've mapped it all out like a big nerd. And that once I've got that, I will have the platinum trophy for Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2 Remastered, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Demon Souls.
Okay. And then you'll never play Dark Souls 2 ever again.
Probably never again. I didn't get the platinum trophy for Dark Souls 1 and 2 on PS3, but I will have got them on PS4.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's basically what I've been playing. Is just going for a mad trophy run on Dark Souls 2, and I'm close, Peter.
Well, best of luck.
I'm nearly there. Thank you. I'm so close to the prize at the end of the road.
Well, we've got a question that you can read. That's probably easier than getting the Dark Souls 2 Platinum.
Okay, it probably is. It'll be over sooner anyway.
Yeah.
Stephen Scodes asks, hello, Ben and Peter.
Hi.
What do you think about the popularity of Battle Royale games? With such hits as PUBG and H1Z1, it seems like everyone loves these games. I heard even Fallout 76 is including a Battle Royale mode in a future update. Keep up the awesome content, and I'm very proud to be a patron of you guys. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Do you have much experience with Battle Royale games? You don't play many multiplayer games, do you?
I'm not really interested in Battle Royale games for kind of the same reasons that I'm not... Well, not for the same reasons, but like... I look at Battle Royale games the same way I look at MOBAs, which is just...
With contempt.
Yeah, with contempt. No, like, I can kind of... I don't know if I can actually understand why they're so popular. I'm not suggesting that like it should be a really unpopular format, but I don't see why it's taken the world by storm, you know? Yeah. I don't know why Fortnite is just like absolutely... They're just printing money at this point. But yeah, like, I mean, I'm not a big multiplayer gamer anyway. So I don't play competitively, but if I do play competitively, I prefer to play on teams.
Right.
So I'd rather play like Rocket League or like a team deathmatch on something than, say I was playing an FPS online, I would very rarely choose the sort of lone wolf, every man for himself, free-for-all option.
Right.
And so a Battle Royale, just by definition, is not really for me.
Yeah, I would never play a Battle Royale game by myself either. Most of them do have teams. Team modes available.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
but even so,
I would never play a Battle Royale game solo. That's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not necessarily by virtue of the game mode of Battle Royale, which I do think in and of itself is a really novel and fun idea. You know, like dumping a load of players in a map with a circle closing and just saying last person or last team standing wins.
Yeah,
like, that's a cool idea. I like that. But I think it was just a case of one game, PUBG, did it really, really well, and then Fortnite copied it, made it more accessible and colourful, and exploded in popularity. I don't think it's so much the game mode that's doing really well. I think it's just two games have done really well that happen to feature Battle Royale modes. I've got nothing against them personally. I've enjoyed the bits of Apex that I've played with friends. I tried Fortnite once a few years ago when it was first getting really popular, and it wasn't for me. I've never played PUBG just because I never had anything that it was on, and now it's out on PS4. It's kind of too late. Kind of missed the boat there, really. But I'm glad that people enjoy them. You know, I think it's a great format, and I think it's a mode that complements a game rather than, you know, you would have to really create something very, very special for your game just to be a Battle Royale game.
Yeah.
You know, Call of Duty did fantastically. Black Ops 4 had Blackout, which was their Battle Royale mode, but that complemented, you know, a bigger game. And I think that's the way to do it. If you're going to do a Battle Royale mode now, you've got to have a really, really good idea and a lot of money to market it if you want it to stand tall among everyone else.
No, definitely.
I'll happily have like an Uncharted 5 that just has a battle royale mode as a multiplayer mode. Like, that would be fun. Why not? It's a mode at the end of the day. I don't think there's enough going for it to stand on its own as a game. I think that
especially
it has
when the competition now is just so high.
It's just, it's ridiculous how well Epic has done.
You're right though. When you mentioned PUBG, I remember that actually when that first came out, I did think that was a really cool format, and I was like, oh yeah, hats off to the guy. I don't think I quite understood, because that was an overnight hit as well.
Yeah.
I don't think I quite understood the sudden spike in popularity.
We had someone wanting to make a video on it for What Culture Gaming, and we were like, what is this?
What is this? What are you talking about? He was like, it's got 1 million players overnight or something. What do you mean? But yeah, when I heard about what it was, I was like, okay, yeah, that's an interesting format, like just being dropped in and scavenging. That sounds fun, finding your own little place to hide out, but you can't stay there too long. But yeah, I think now that it's just become this thing that is, it just seems less innovative now, and it's less unique. And I think that was partly what I thought was interesting about PUBG. It was a fairly new and unique concept, but now that there are so many battle royale either modes or games out there, it doesn't really excite me at all. So
if you enjoy them, then good for you. I know a lot of people do. I've got nothing against them. Yeah. I really love the idea as a format, but yeah, as we've said, I think it complements a larger game.
Yeah.
I think it stands a better chance of doing well that way. Peter.
Yeah.
Do you want to get weird?
I want to get really, really weird. Let me stack my papers.
Oh. Just stack. I've stood mine up vertically for people listening at home.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I can do that a lot now. It's really good. I'm getting ready. Anyway, it's time for weird news. It's weird. Peter.
Yeah.
It's time for weird news.
It is.
I've got a weird news for you, peeps.
Okay.
Are you
Everyone
ready?
Stop the presses. Ben's got something weird.
This comes from Polygon.
Yeah.
Thomas the Tank Engine mod got Skyrim player in legal trouble.
Oh, God. We all know this. I mean, it's quite a famous mod, isn't it, the Thomas one?
It is.
It's got shared a lot on YouTube. So
and it's just spreading from game to game now, the Thomas mod.
Has the estate of Reverend...
Thomas Esquire.
What's his name? Reverend something.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. The guy who done Thomas. Yeah. No, it's not, actually.
Who designed the stories of the Isle of Sodom.
The Isle... Sodor and Guerrero.
Yeah.
Guerrero. The tradition of adding Thomas the Tank Engine to video games started with Skyrim back in 2013, when Kevin Brock put the blue locomotive in Bethesda's fantasy game. While the cameo has become a meme now, the joke's explosion apparently got the modder in hot water with Mattel, the toy giants who own Thomas's image.
Oh, they own his image?
Yeah. According to Brock, the Skyrim mod got him in so much trouble, and that attention followed him across other Thomas the Tank Engine mods that he made.
Oh no.
Mattel pretty much want me dead at this point, Brock says. It's the reason why the Fallout 4 mod can't be found on any normal website. Sure enough, if you run a search for the Thomas the Tank Engine, for Thomas the Tank Engine on Nexus, the largest distributor of Bethesda mods on the internet, absolutely nothing comes up for Fallout 4, although Skyrim's Thomas mod is still up. Similarly, if you click on links for old stories on the internet that previously led to the mod, nothing comes up. Apparently, Mattel sent its lawyers after Brock after the Skyrim mod blew up. We reached out to Mattel, but the company did not respond in time for publication. It was some intermediary law firm based out of Macedonia saying how I diminished the brand of Thomas by showing him blowing up, although nothing about him violently murdering people.
Yeah.
Brock said. They issued takedown notices on the video for it. The first time it got taken down. The second time, YouTube told them it was covered under parody law with no prompting from me. So that was nice.
Is that the only time YouTube
That's the only time YouTube
parody?
Stood up for Thomas the Tank Engine. It was some intermediary law firm based out of Macedonia saying how I diminished the brand of Thomas for showing him blowing up.
Yeah, not just replacing a dragon with him and having him breathe fire. And that's quite something. But I wonder what they thought of the Mr. X Resident Evil
that's
one.
what I was going to say. The story goes on to say, that one I don't think was created by Brock.
No, he's probably stopped now at this point.
But the train just keeps on rolling, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And you will Mr. X, Thomas the Tank Engine mod, and other things. It will just continue to happen.
Woo.
And Mattel, I don't think, are going to do anything about it. But I just thought that was kind of amazing. Thomas
Fantastic.
blowing up. Peter, what you got?
I'm not even sure that does count as parody, actually. I think that's quite tenuous. If someone had recreated a Thomas the Tank Engine episode in Skyrim, that would maybe be parody. But just putting him in the game is not actually parody.
I suppose it's because they were claiming the video rather than the mod. So as far as YouTube's concerned, this person has made a video with Thomas the Tank Engine in it, and that's considered parody.
Because it's kind of making fun
legally,
of
it starts to get a little confusing because they're not coming after him for releasing the mod or people playing the mod or the popularity of the mod. They're coming after him because when he recreated Thomas's image in the game, that was him basically breaking, as far as they were concerned,
ruining the image.
Yeah. It's not that he then what people did with that.
No,
it's the act of. It's like me drawing a picture of you and then sending it to someone who's going to put you in a film. It's like you can't sue the film, but you can come after me for copying your likeness without your permission.
Yeah.
Legally, it starts to get quite murky there, and it's like who's to blame and so on.
Especially if in the picture that you drew, I'm punching a cat.
Exactly.
Whatever,
yeah. Or in the film, they make you blow up.
Yeah, but then I kind of feel that that's not your fault if in the film they make...
No,
but anyway,
that's true.
That's the whole point, isn't it? That
it's
is
confusing.
Quite muddy water. Yeah.
But as far as YouTube's concerned, if a video's uploaded with Thomas in, that's parody.
Yeah.
Because they're claiming the video, not the IP of Thomas.
Should we just do that going forward? Should we just, every time we want to use something copyright, let's just use Thomas? Because we know that's fine.
Because they can't touch us.
There's precedent.
There is precedent.
Legal precedent.
YouTube's done us no favors in the past. I don't know if they would protect us, really.
Ben.
Yeah.
This just in.
Yeah.
Ubisoft insists Splinter Cell confirmation tweet is just a joke. It's all right. It's just a joke.
It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank.
Over the past 24 hours or so, the Splinter Cell fandom has had to endure a roller coaster of emotions, according to Kotaku. With E3 just a few short weeks away, a tweet from Ubisoft's creative director has left fans confused about whether or not we might see a new Splinter Cell game announced next month in LA. It all started with the above tweet from creative director Julian Geraghty, I think. I'm not really sure. What do you think that is? Geraghty? Geraghty. I don't think it's that.
Geraghty.
Who would theoretically be in a position to know if there was a new unannounced Splinter Cell game in the works. His tweet seemed to very casually announce a new Splinter Cell. It says, there's a photo of him with some guy.
A man.
Dan Hey now.
You're a rock
star, apparently.
Yeah.
Damn he now.
Yeah.
Working on the next hashtag Splinter Cell with @Dan Hey now and @Romcamore in Leon. Can't wait for E3. Crossover with the crew too, with @Fergus. Only missing @Ghost Recon and @Rainbow Six Game, but on their way. And then...
Wow.
But in one of the photos, they've got some very large glasses of wine, which might be key to this
lie tweet.
Yeah.
Where he just said, working on new Splinter Cell.
His tweet seemed to very casually announce the new Splinter Cell, with many assuming it was a slip-up brought on by the wine being drunk in one of the images. Julian then went on to tweet shortly after, okay, please don't retweet, I may be in trouble.
Oh, no.
But he didn't delete the original.
That's weird. Now that sort of gets my conspiracy senses going off. Maybe as if they almost wanted to either drum up excitement
or sort of viral,
do a sort of litmus test for interest.
Yeah, true.
But that's not a subtle way of doing it.
No, and it's a bit of a mean way to do it to the fans who love the game so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
This led many to assume that it must be a joke, but a very poorly thought out one. If it is indeed just a joke, it's tough to see what the expected punchline was. A prominent person in the know pretends a well-liked game series is getting a much-wanted sequel in order to get fans' hopes up ahead of E3 for no reason. If it was a joke, it seems like the kind that Geraghty might end up in a little trouble over.
Geraghty.
Yeah. In a comment to PC Gamer, Ubisoft spokesperson claimed the tweets were nothing more than a joke. Quote, Julian was obviously joking, as Julian likes to do. It looks like our creative directors are having fun right now. We do not have any announcements to make at this time.
You said that in the right way as well.
Yeah.
Then sounds like they're having fun right
just having a bit of fun right now.
Fire him.
Still, some are hoping this is a rehearsed marketing act to get people excited for E3. This would perhaps explain why the tweet has not been taken down and wouldn't contradict with Ubisoft's statement that it doesn't have anything to announce at this time.
It's just such a mess. If it is a subtle marketing ploy, it's such a messy one.
Yeah.
Like, that tweet is a disaster from start to finish. Like, you were struggling to read that out.
I was.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Crossing over with all of the different Ubisoft games, like what are they even doing there? Like, it's weird. They absolutely would have asked him to take it down immediately if there was something he shouldn't have said. And if there is absolutely no truth to it whatsoever, and he was just BSing for fun, I imagine he would have taken it down.
Yeah.
So the reason it's, the fact that it's up at all means that there is definitely something else going on here, whatever that may be.
Yeah, but they don't have to pretend like, oops, he got a bit drunk and said something he shouldn't have done. Like, when they
the
finally...
French and wine, am I right?
Well, yeah. When Ubisoft finally wanted to sort of tease Beyond Good and Evil 2... what they did was they got Michel Ancel, who is effectively the equivalent person in this case.
A bottle of wine.
Well, they got him a bottle of wine, and they got him to tweet or Instagram. He doesn't have a Twitter.
Every single, of course, he doesn't have a Twitter.
Well, yeah.
Tagging every single one of the Ubisoft franchises.
We're crossing over with Assassin's Creed.
Rabbids.
They got him to just put some concept art on Instagram with a character that looked like it probably could be from Beyond Good and Evil universe, but wasn't. We weren't quite sure. And I think he just said something like, coming to E3, an old friend or something like that. And that, that's like, that drums up hype.
It does.
He didn't then put another post out going, oops,
might be in trouble.
Oh no, I had too much wine.
Did a load of coke with @ Ezio Auditore off of Assassin's Creed. So, #YOLO.
If you're going to do that, just get the creative director to do a teasy tweet.
Little teasers.
Like the billboard and the road that was posted for Borderlands 3.
Exactly. You don't need to, it's crap, isn't it? It's just really crap. If I was a Splinter Cell fan, I'd be so furious at how crap this is.
Now.
Yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it? The whole thing is just bad from top to bottom.
Mad, yeah.
Well, that was weird. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
We got a duo combo question here. We can rattle through the first one, but it relates to PlayStation's State of Play, their second State of Play live stream. Is it State of Play?
Yeah, State of Play. Yeah,
State of Play live stream, which was way bigger than the first one.
I've noticed the two people asking these questions, between them have 4 first names.
Are you going to be okay reading them, or do you want me to do it? You're going to trigger yourself.
Jessica James and Rob Clark, thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Ben, would you like to read one or both?
I'll read the first one.
Okay.
Jessica James asks, did you watch PS State of Play? Out of 10, with 10 being the only option available, how excited are you for the Medieval remake? And I've written down here 4 out of 100.
I was going to say 0, Medieval. Right? Is that what you're going to...
I just don't care about Medieval. Honest. I don't care about Medieval. It was going to be 4 out of 10, and then I didn't even think about it, and I wrote another 0 on the end.
Yeah.
So it became 4 out of 100.
Probably more accurate. And Rob Clark asks, Final Fantasy VII Remake is staying episodic, but with the story as large and bizarre as the original, do you think such a format can work? Also, do you foresee changes for a story that includes cross-dressing to appease a seedy gangster, a perpetuated black stereotype, and wildcards like a cat riding a giant plushie and a genetically mutated wolf companion? Remember that bit where you get into the hot tub with all the men?
Oh boy, do I!
And they say, "Stay with Daddy." Daddy's
lonely. Don't leave.
Yeah,
it's an odd bit, isn't it?
I'm less excited for Medieval since they showed it as State of Play. Did you see the dire frame rate in that trailer? You probably didn't even watch the trailer.
Oh, I didn't. I was watching it, but I didn't pay much. I do not understand Medieval. I don't get it.
The official trailer from PS State of Play with footage that was captured from a PS4 Pro.
The state of this play.
It was really choppy. And I talked about this a little bit in my... live stream on I can't remember if it was on Friday or Monday, but at the time of recording. But it was just off the back of State of Play. It had just come out, and I was asking the audience what they were excited for, and I was like, was it just me or was it really choppy? And I didn't really get many answers regarding the frame rate. But since then, I've looked up the video on YouTube, and all the comments are saying, yeah, this is really bad capture in your official trailer. So I'm assuming it probably will run properly. They're not going to release it if it's going to be like that, but just not a good way to market your game.
And that's a shame as well, because this is the first remake. Is it the first remake that PlayStation are handling themselves, because obviously Crash and Spyro, it's not theirs anymore.
Shadow of the Colossus? Was that
Shadow of the
published by
Colossus,
them?
yeah, that's true. They did Shadow of the Colossus, but that was a PS2 game. I don't know. I'm talking like sort of seminal, big nostalgia franchises from early PlayStation days. 2 of them are here. Final Fantasy VII Remake was shown off after being away for a very long time. And also Medieval. But, Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't theirs and isn't being made by them. And I think Medieval is maybe the only one from the PS1 days that they're doing themselves.
I think they're publishing it, I'm sure. I don't know who's developing it, but it's probably one of their...
I'm not sure either, but in terms of my hype levels, I don't understand the excitement about Medieval. It was not...
I enjoyed it at the time. I don't know if I'm actually particularly excited for the remake, because I think I don't know. It just it kind of looks like the sort of game that's not going to translate well onto modern consoles. I think Crash and Spyro, the 3D platformer still exists. I mean, I know not as many of them get made nowadays, but Knack 2, I'm told, they'd sort of finally got the knack. So compared to the first one, anyway.
Right. Sure. I don't know who told you that.
Right. Well,
it's fine.
I've heard
it's not a good game.
I'm not saying it's a good game, but it's like
it's worse than most.
It plays well, or it shows that the 3D platformer can still exist. And Ukulele as well. I didn't think was great, but the problems with it weren't it being a 3D platformer. Is my point.
That's true.
Crash and Spyro, I think both worked pretty well as well, but. Medieval is not really a platformer. It's like a hack and slash, but with a kind of PS1 gloss over it. And I kind of feel like the hack and slash games today are the likes of God of War or I don't know if it's going to
War has changed,
well.
Hasn't it?
Yeah, war has changed. So I don't think you can do the kind of hack and slash. What I'm saying is you have to do some pretty satisfying, enjoyable combat if you're doing a hack and slash. You need attacks where there's all sorts of flashing lights and numbers on screen, and loads of enemies fall down in one single strike. And Medieval didn't play like that.
I think it's just a weird one to remake, really. If they were going to... Because I'm hesitant to call it niche, but certainly that wasn't the games that me and my friends were playing on PS1. That wasn't the ones we were all talking about. We're talking about Spyro. And we're talking about Crash and Crash Team Racing and Final Fantasy and Metal Gear Solid and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It just seems like a weird one. Out of the franchises that Sony still owns, I don't know. I can't really name one off the top of my head. And I know, obviously, Jessica is a fan.
Yeah.
And there are fans, and they've been asking for it, and fair enough, but it still seems really weird for it to be getting primed. I feel almost annoyed that it's getting so much treatment. Nice treatment.
I'm okay with it. I will play it, and I'm happy for any PS1 era game to come out and be remade and hopefully do well, because then the more of those that come out and do well, the more of them that they will make. And I love my PS1 and I'd love to see more, but I'm not super stoked. I don't think it looks particularly well done, unfortunately.
Let us know in the comments. Speaking of things being remade and the potential troubles that therein lies. Final Fantasy VII. So it was always Final Fantasy VII's remake was going to be episodic, at least 3 parts basically, and there are 3 discs, so it kind of makes sense, I suppose. But that's a weird one because the 3 discs were necessary. Because they could only fit so much on them. It wasn't because here's a good place to put a cliffhanger, because the 3rd disc wasn't that long.
Right.
So they would really have to, and again, it's weird because I'm just trying to think about how it would work. And again, this all ties into them trying to get the game to make sense on modern consoles, because there's a lot of design choices in there that were because of limitations. But, you get released into the open world after a weighty intro section from the first game, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can go anywhere. I can do anything within reason. And you want to be going into that open world to level up and to explore and to find items and things like that. And if the game, say part 1, comes to an end at a particular story point, what's to stop you from knowing when the story point comes and just to grind endlessly in the open world, so that by the time the second part rolls around, presumably you resume your save, and then you're like ridiculously over leveled because you've had nothing to do for a year while the second part's been like it just, there's going to be loads of weird balancing issues that arise from them having an open world where you can do what you want and then cutting you off when you reach a certain story point.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't really know how that could totally mess up the experience for the rest of the game if they just let you. But then, do they stop you from going into the open world? Do they just get rid of it? Like, I don't know how it would work.
Yeah, it's like to mention another niche PS1 game, a la Medieval.
Yeah.
You know the Tomby games, the pink-haired wild man. I had a demo for Tomby 1. I think a lot of people did. It was on one of those Demo 1 discs, and that had a definite end point. If you got up to like the top of the mountain and spoke to the old man, the demo would end. But they actually included, I think, pretty much the whole like first level with all of the sort of side missions and like extra quests and things you could do, and you could actually get a lot of playtime out of that demo. There was like seriously like a lot. In fact, no, it went further than that. Like you went up the mountain and then there was a whole second area as well. And I honestly could have got like an hour or two out of that demo just doing actual missions and stuff. Yeah. And it's that kind of thing where I would deliberately, obviously, not go to the final main quest on that demo because then the demo ends. Yeah. So it would kind of encourage me to run around just doing everything else, which in a way is a good thing. But like you say, people are going to be like almost avoiding the final part of this.
Yeah. And taking themselves out.
Episode 1.
I mean, even Final Fantasy VII itself, I had a save file on PS1 that was in the final cave where you fought Ultra Sephiroth. And I discovered that you could leave the cave by backtracking all the way back out again because it was a real journey to get there.
Right.
And then I could just go back into the open world with the threat of the end of the world looming, knowing that it would never come unless I went into the cave. So I could just go and do all the side stuff I didn't know existed because I was, a child or a young teenager. And I just put off ever playing the end of the game. And it's like, that's weird. Why would they? Anyway, so that's something they've got to consider. Then, of course, there's all the sorts of other stuff, like, as it says here, the cross-dressing. How on earth are they going to handle that?
The Bumblebee girls, who are kind of... Yeah. Is that sort of a brothel, or is it like a strip club? Or...
Not really sure. There's also that boxing club where they're all sort of, I think, kind of like... There's sort of like a weird dominatrix vibe in there, even though they call each other brother and sister, which is super weird. Not to kink shame, but that's strange.
That's illegal
in a game, at least that isn't about that kind of thing. It's a weird left turn. That whole town is strange. And then you've got Barrett, who is quite controversial now because people have realized that when you give him a voice, actually he's kind of a one-note character that doesn't.
He's a little bit.
He's not very. He's got a lot to his story, but at least from the way he speaks and all that kind of stuff, like there's people aren't too happy about that either.
But some games have been like modern games still sort of do that character. I think like what's his name? I think Cole, the Coal Train out of Gears of War is a little bit one-dimensional.
He's a bit stereotyped.
Yeah, stereotypical.
I mean, Barrett definitely has some fantastic story development. Like he's a really deep and interesting character. So from that regard, I think he's safe. And of course, as two very white boys, it's difficult to put forward an argument either way on this because we're just going to upset loads of people. Yeah. So it's a topic that I don't think shouldn't be discussed, but I don't know if it should be discussed by us necessarily.
Maybe not. I don't know.
But it's just I see what people are saying anyway when they're saying that he's a bit of a stereotype. Then, of course, yes, there is a cat riding a giant plushie. How on earth is that going to look? And a genetically mutated wolf companion. I think that would be okay, but certainly there are parts of the game that I remember, especially the Golden Saucer, which is an in-game or an in-world sort of theme park. And there's a bit where you go on a date with one of the party members.
Yeah.
And you get accidentally sucked into performing in like a live play.
Right.
But
I've seen that.
The animations are super weird and like they are funny intentionally because of the blocky graphics. And if they did that sincerely with good graphics, it'd be like, this is crap.
It's a bit sort of
doesn't really
weird,
make sense.
Yeah.
Like it only worked because they were working with what they had. So there's a lot of questions there. I'm glad it's alive as one of my very favorite games ever. I'm glad the remake exists. It's clearly gone through a lot of changes since we last saw it. But I have no idea how it's going to turn out.
The combat looks, at least in part, non-turn-based. I don't know if they're going to blend the two, but like it certainly some of the earlier stuff that they released, there was a lot of swinging swords just on the fly, like Kingdom Hearts style.
Yeah, it might be going a Final Fantasy 15 route, which I won't be mad at. But it's definitely got to adapt, but it's also got to do it sensibly, because otherwise it just won't be the game that it was.
Just a very quick one before we move on from State of Play. Are you remotely excited for a Predator-based asymmetric multiplayer game?
Make it a battle royale and we'll talk.
Hey.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that game. They didn't show any. Show me the gameplay first.
Yeah, I mean,
it looks like Evolve.
Exactly. I said on the stream, that was one thing we talked about, that like, has any asymmetric multiplayer game really done particularly well at this point? There's Evolve, and then there's those. Have you seen that one where you play as like stereotypical movie villains? Like, I don't think they've got any licensed images, but you basically play as like Jason Voorhees or someone.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, there's two.
Friday the 13th,
so there's a Friday the 13th one, and then there's another one where it's basically the same game, but you're just sort of generic urban legend murderer man.
Sort of like a one versus all kind of deal.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I think this Predator is going to be like. There's like one Predator and 4 Marines or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know about having a whole game.
I don't know if those games have ever really done well, or like as well as other genres anyway.
That'll do well if it goes on Games with Gold or PlayStation Plus.
It's that sort of thing.
It'll have a player base for like a good few weeks, and then some people will stick around and some people won't. I don't see games like that having a long shelf life. I really don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for those questions. It's time, Peter, for
a
huge discussion.
Yes.
Big discussion time. Peter, this comes from Patricia Bousquet, I want to say.
Patricia Biscuit.
Immediately. Sorry, Patricia. A US senator has proposed legislation that would ban loot boxes and pay-to-win mechanics in games that are marketed towards children. Do you think this kind of legislation would be good for the industry overall, or do you think that the consumer backlash that some companies have faced is enough to control it from happening too much?
That's a very good question, Patricia. Thank you very much.
It's a great question. So this is the BBC article sort of reporting on the story. I don't know if you want to read this, Peeps.
Yeah. Republican Senator Josh Hawley said of his proposed Protecting Children from Abusive Games bill, when a game is designed for kids, game developers shouldn't be allowed to monetize addiction. Quite a strong choice of words there. And when kids play games designed for adults, they should be walled off from compulsive microtransactions. Game developers who knowingly exploit children should face legal consequences. In a statement, the Entertainment Software Association, ESA, said that numerous countries, including Ireland, Germany, Denmark, Australia, and the UK, had determined that loot boxes were not akin to gambling. We look forward to sharing with the Senator the tools and information the industry already provides that keeps the control of in-game spending in parents' hands, it said. Parents already have the ability to limit or prohibit in-game purchases with easy-to-use parental controls. The ESA has previously said that efforts to regulate the gaming industry threatened its freedom to innovate and test new business models. But I think this is the most interesting thing. Is just because some countries have said that it's not gambling.
Yeah.
On the other hand, this is back to the article. Last month, the government of Belgium said loot boxes were in violation of its gambling laws. Sweden is also investigating them, and the Chinese government has restricted the number of loot boxes players can open each day.
So I am in two minds about this, Peter. I think it's very easy to get caught up in the furor surrounding Star Wars Battlefront 2 and all that crap.
Yeah.
Because it was so vehemently anti-consumer that it was kind of disgusting. It just broke their own game, ruined enjoyment. People were already paying full price for this game.
Yeah.
It was despicable and shouldn't be allowed. This is purely, apparently, for the protection of children. And that's what this bill would do. It would be for the protection of kids. It wouldn't be protecting us from crappy business practices.
No.
They will still find a way to monetize these things if they're banned. What is more powerful, as Patricia says, is to continue the consumer backlash and not buy them and voice our concerns in order to make companies realize that, hey, if we're going to do things like this that are just obviously anti-consumer, then people aren't going to support our games. Now, it's great to see, especially with all the stuff when Battlefront 2 blew up.
Yeah.
It's almost like, go government, telling them, no, you can't do this. But this is why I'm in two minds. On the one hand, yes, it's great. They've got to stop doing it. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, the government is now getting more involved in the regulation of video games, which is probably not a good thing. And on yet another hand that you didn't even realize you had, the third hand says these companies are just going to find another way to do this crap. So it's difficult because objectively you look at this and you think, well, a thing that bans the things I hate, that's great.
Yeah.
But really what you want to do is change minds. It's kind of like difficult political situations where someone may have been raised to believe one thing that is not actually that great. Yeah. You don't want to say legally you can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. As great as that is, just a blanket ban on it. What you really want to do is engage with them and talk to them and explain why it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, this was my thought is that, like, if this was for video game violence and they said EA, that Star Wars game that you released where people's heads come off, there's no such thing, but just imagine there was.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Ragtag.
In Ragtag where you can chop that man's willy right off. We don't want you doing that because kids play your game and that shouldn't be allowed. So we're introducing legislation that you can no longer include blood in video games or dismemberment.
Yeah.
Me and you would be up in arms saying, you can't step in and start doing that because, and the argument would be, it's up to the parents, I've always believed, to stop children playing these games. I played games that I shouldn't have been playing as a kid, but I don't blame I mean, for one thing, I don't have any traumatic memories of it, and I don't think it's made me want to, go and do bad things to nice people. But if I did have some trauma from it, I don't think it would really be the developer's fault or the publisher's fault. No. I think it would be my parents' fault for not checking up on what I was doing.
You watch the news? News is pretty harrowing.
That's what my uncle said. My gaming uncle, who I talk about all the time.
Right.
He was the one who would show me these bad games. And he'd be a little bit like, oh yeah, maybe don't tell your dad that you're watching this.
Right.
But I could blame him and be like, why were you showing me this stuff? But he's always said to me when I talk to him about video game violence, he's like, what about the news? Like, you know, that's on... like several times a day. There's BBC News 24 News Round, CBBC News Round, children's television in the UK. They would dumb it down a little bit, but they would talk about, like, they would say the top stories,
massacres and stuff.
Yeah, like soldiers have been killed in Afghanistan today, and it happens, and stuff is out there, and it's about, like, having a responsible adult making sure that their child is not being exposed to stuff, not stopping anything bad that a child could ever be exposed to being produced.
So the ESA, as they have rightly said, there are already things parents can do, steps parents can take to protect them from these things. These microtransactions, they and these loot boxes and so on, these pay-to-win mechanics, they are predatory. They really are, and they should be curbed. But I'm hesitant to say that this is the way to do it because This could just be a one small step into a much more troubling area.
Yeah.
It's almost like amputating your leg once you've stubbed your toe. Like I feel like the consumers have, and they've proven it time and time again in other ways, Sonic, for example, they have a lot of power. And if they don't like something and they shout loud enough about it, companies do listen.
Yeah.
And as I said, if they just blanket ban this stuff, they're just going to look for other crappy ways to monetize this stuff. Whereas if we say we don't like crappy monetization full stop, they will have to pay attention eventually, and a lot of them do. And a lot of them relish in the fact and get cheers and applause at conferences when they announce their games and say that they're not going to have microtransactions in them. Companies know that we don't like this stuff. And if we get governments involved, then, obviously Belgium has already said it's in violation, but, that's one country, I would argue, rather than if the entire world said no to loot boxes, companies would always find something else to do.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Mobile games, I'd say, are far worse than the kind of games that you or I play. And protections absolutely do deserve to be in place on there, but do not confuse free-to-play mobile games for full console experiences.
I think, like, really,
or PC experiences.
The way it should work is that if there's going to be in-game microtransactions, it should be linked to a credit card, because you can't get a credit card if you're under, I mean, I suppose it depends what country you're in, but 16, 18.
Right.
And I kind of think that in that respect, a child can't go on to their Fortnite and start paying for, like, custom skins and things like that. They just physically can't. If you foolishly link your credit card and save the information, remember me, to the game, then that's your lookout, isn't it, as a parent?
Yeah.
You know, your kid is then going to maybe go to the store and just empty your account. But I don't think that they should just make it so essentially only an adult or someone with an adult's assistance can do that. And that's all you need. And maybe that is, you know, what most games are going to be doing going forward. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. I think it's not so much about, I really hope the government start intervening and they ban loot boxes.
Blanket bans are bad.
Yeah, they are bad. And it is more about, you know, it should come down to the consumer. And, you know, we talk about Star Wars Battlefront. There was a bit of a backpedal on the part of EA in the wake of, like, all the bad stuff.
We've heard you loud and clear.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it didn't stop them entirely, and you still have to spend in-game credits to unlock characters, which I'm pretty sure you can still buy using real money.
Right.
I don't know if you can, actually. That might not be... Yeah, I think you can. But in any case, they heard us loud and clear for a time. Mm-hmm. They've not completely backtracked on it, and I suspect if Battlefront 3 ever comes out, they will still include some kind of thing like that. But they
at least acknowledged that they were in the wrong, and they know that they're on record now saying, we know you do not like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of games don't include stuff like that as a result.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rage 2's just come out, and it does include that, which is crap. And if you want to find out more about Rage 2, we did a Quip Scope earlier in the week, and the live stream should now be live. If you want to see more about that, that came out this week.
Crash Team Racing has announced this week at time of recording that there's going to be loads of, like, skins and car customization and stuff like that. I'm convinced that there's going to be microtransactions because they're aesthetic.
They will almost certainly be, as long as they're not game changing.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be like that.
But even so, you know, that's the kind of stuff that you want to be able to earn in game as a reward.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, Fallout 76 got a lot of flack, and rightly so, for its crappy atomic shop.
Yeah.
And you earn atomic points by just doing various things in game, challenges and so on. I never paid any real money for it. It's mainly the price of it, like to buy these atoms. You know, you're buying costumes that were in Fallout 4. That's the thing that hurts the most. Is like they're actively siphoning away content that you should otherwise be getting, and that's why the Borderlands games were always so good. Is that you'd get loads of these skins as you played through the game for completing challenges and stuff. And now it sounds like that you're going to buy those now.
Yeah,
which sucks.
I should clarify, unconfirmed about, you know, CTR being microtransactions, but certainly there's unlockable skins and cart pieces and stuff, and maybe they'll all be unlockable just in the game by progressing through. But I'm concerned that because they're you know, just, I don't think they affect the gameplay, but because they're cosmetic is the word I'm looking for.
Yes,
those are invariably tied to microtransactions in most games. So
they are.
That's my worry.
I'm not so mad at the idea if you're able to earn the currency in game and it's not an unfair grind to get this stuff. Fine. But I still do not like the idea of having to pay for stuff that I feel like if it's available from launch, then that should be part of the game I'm buying. Yeah. I totally get buying season passes for big game expansions that they're going to continue to work on or they have planned. You know, they're not ready to go at launch.
Yeah, just funding the DLC.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't. That's okay, but yeah, there are ways that this can be gone about, and I agree that children need to be protected from this kind of stuff. And you know, maybe the ESA stepping up even further and providing greater restrictions on what, you know, how these things are accessed by children is necessary, but I don't think blanket bans are the way forward, really. And that's on some reflection over the last couple of years, because I was in there with the angry mob. A lot of us were. Where I was just like, yeah, go government, take them down, just blanket ban, screw these guys. But really, when you think about it, what are we doing?
Yeah,
we're
I thought it was
probably making it worse.
I thought it was a victory when certain countries were saying, "Oh, we're going to investigate this now because this seems like gambling." I was like, "Yeah,
take that as hang on, no, because now we've already got the ESRB that they can regulate that fine actually, but it's not great, is it? Yeah. It's all a disaster. It's a crappy situation of the game publisher's own making, but as consumers, we have to think long term here. Do we want to fix now with weirder, perhaps more problematic issues further down the line, or do we want to slowly work through these issues and hopefully get just a better experience for everyone?
Yeah.
But there we go. Let us know what you think in the comments below. There'll be links to everything we've spoken about in the link dump.
Yes, there will.
In the description as well. Thank you so much for listening. Peter, where can people find us if they want to?
They can find us at Team TripleJump on all the social medias of choice. That's our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel. Is that the word? Channel?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Twitter, Facebook, Patreon as well, where you can support us financially. And there's all kinds of tiers, such as viewing Worst Games Ever early and being able to ask questions on this very podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast itself is at play.acast.com/s/TripleJump.
Nice.
Not Team TripleJump.
No, we can't change that.
And the website is triplej.mup. That's ju.mp. And if you put /shop on the end of that, that's the other way you can help us out a little bit and get something in return.
And buy this shirt that I'm wearing.
I'm wearing a shirt.
Oh, there's the shirt. You had it zipped up, covered away. And also your mug here that's behind Billy.
Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe you can see it. I can't really tell on the camera. So there it is. You can see that.
Yeah. One of the other rewards you can get on the Patreon is accessing our Discord.
Yes, it is.
Which is bit.ly/Team TripleJump.
Speaking of that Discord, we'll probably be having another Discord chat with our patrons in the coming week or so. So keep an eye out for that if you are a patron supporter and you want to ask a question or just listen in to a live little chat.
On this Friday.
Yes. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, at @PeterAustin, @BenPotter20. We do lists every Tuesday and Thursday. Streams Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday and Tuesday are Twitch. Thursday is YouTube. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly. There's Worst Games that's just come out if you're a patron and is out tomorrow at the time of release of this podcast. I hope you look forward to that or have enjoyed that, and that's wonderful. Thank you. And there's a podcast every Saturday. Please leave a review on iTunes if you can. And finally, thank you very much to our sponsor for this week, Kratos' Beard Oil. Kratos' Beard Oil. It's you only get half. You only get half of it because he's actually used some. It is Kratos' Beard Oil. He's used a bit, and he just wanted to ask us to. He wanted to ask us to sell it for him because he didn't want to use all of it. Okay. Kratos' Beard Oil.
Yeah, is that?
That's the ad read. That's what it says on the paper.
Okay.
You see that, right?
I see it there.
It's on yours as well.
Did they just email you directly? Or?
Yeah. They said don't tell Peter.
Right.
We'll tell Peter to do the next one next week.
Okay.
So
Kratos' Beard Oil.
Kratos' Beard Oil sponsors Triple Jump podcast this weekend, this week only.
Punch everyone except your
not
kid.
your kid, never the kid, just the. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.